I am unwilling to vouch for the truth of that which I found in Western Australia in 1935. I hope to this day my experiences in that vast desert, that accursed night, was only a hallucination. My name is Nathaniel Peasley. I lived an ordinary life in Arkham, Massachusetts. This is the story of the nightmare that took hold of my life. My collapse occurred while I was conducting a class in economy, which I teach at Miskatonic University. Suddenly, I was enveloped in darkness. After spending the next 24 hours in an unshakable stupor, I am told I suddenly awakened a changed man. I was confused, disoriented, seemingly unfamiliar with my own body. When I opened my mouth, I spoke in something that sounded like an old, strange language, grotesque and non-human. I seemed to have a new personality, that of a man craving adventure and exploits. I traveled the earth, visiting the most remote and desolate places. I sought out specific areas of the oceans, only to find nothing but empty vistas of water. I journeyed through the extreme climate of the South Pole, searching for something I couldn't define. I raided the jungles of the Amazon to visit ancient ruins of long-gone civilizations, hoping they would reveal their mysteries to me. I always returned to Arkham disappointed. I grew silent and introspective, and rarely engaged in conversation with anyone. My wife and my grown-up son left me, and broke off all relations with me, as they felt they could no longer live with the stranger I had become. My life was now completely taken over by a feverish obsession with amassing knowledge. I vicariously read everything I came across within human speed and remembered every detail. After quitting my remarkable travels and research, I secretly assembled a mechanism of the most curious aspect, with wheels, bulky electronics, and rotating mirrors. After several years in this strange, dreamlike state, I suddenly woke up, and my amnesia was gone. I tried to return to a normal life, but that proved to be difficult. After some time, I began to dream, more intensely and vividly than ever before. At first, the dreams were more strange than horrible. I saw the earth in its dawn. I walked in bizarre forests teeming with long-forgotten vegetation and primordial life. I found the enormous cities of an extinct civilization. I once saw mammoth basaltic ruins, which made me tremble. Huge towers and cyclopean halls, dark and forbidding. The beings I encountered in this prehistoric world were utterly bizarre, cone-shaped and alien. They referred to themselves as the Great Race of Yith. They had solved the enigma of time. I lived among them in my dreams. I was not afraid of them, and they were not afraid of me. Then, I found out. When I looked down at my body, I was one of them. I woke half of Arkham with my scream of primal fear, when I madly tore myself back to the world of waking. But my dreams took me back every night. I found my mind being held prisoner in one of the bodies of the Yith. These creatures controlled incredible and bewildering technologies of breathtaking proportions. Aided by these infernal machines, this great race would project their keen minds over unimaginable gulfs of time to study the history of every age. They would change bodies with specially targeted victims, represented the highest life form of that era. While the mind of the youth moved through the stolen body, the inhabitant of that body was trapped in the form of the sender's empty vessel, and coerced into adding to the great race's library of accumulated annals. I talked to other trapped minds and acquired information about unknown eras in Earth's history, the planets in our solar system, and the mysteries of time. I learned about mankind. A member of a barbaric tribe told me about life in the Dark Ages. I met a member of the strange star-shaped beings which inhabited Antarctica aeons ago. I learned of the snake people of Elusia, and I witnessed pre-human Hyperboreans worship the vile god Sathogwa. I saw the coming of modern man, and I even dreamt about the arachnid denizens of the Earth's last age. And the great race forced me in my trapped body to write down everything about my own age on cellular sheets, stored in book-like metal boxes. All these documentations from every life form, living in the future or the past, were kept in the great race's cyclopean library of vast, endless halls. It was here that I learned of the history of the youth and their predestined fate. They had come across the gulf of stars to the ancient Earth, but they had found it to be already inhabited. A monstrous evil had earlier descended from the blackness of space to take residence on Earth in its infancy. A horrid breed of flying polyps who built vast towers of basalt. A terrible war erupted. Polyps were driven back and down into subterranean vaults. Here they were imprisoned for millions of years, but for all their unusual power and amassed knowledge, the great race knew that one day the polyps would break free and subject the world to their blasphemous presence. To escape this inevitable outbreak, the great race schemed to fly into time, moving the minds of their entire population into the bodies of the arachnids inhabiting Earth's farthest future. The scale and implications of my dreams were difficult to accept. To my horror, I discovered actual references of this great race in the texts of certain forbidden books, such as von Junz's An Assaspreklichen Culten, Ludwig Prinz De Vermis Mysteries, the Comte de Erles Cultes de Gaules, and even the dreaded Necronomicon by the mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred. The connections between the legends documented in these profane volumes and my own troubled dreams prompted me to publish a series of articles detailing my findings and conclusions. Eventually, I received a letter proving that not all of my dreamscapes were unreal. With generous funding from Miskatonic University, I was able to travel to Pilbara, Australia, to meet and confer with geologist Robert Mackenzie, who had written to me about the anomalies he had unearthed in Australia's barren outback. This unusual find consisted of great stone blocks decorated with curious carving, which apparently bore an exceptional resemblance to the sketches that had accompanied my articles. The familiarity of the things overwhelmed me. The blocks were identical to the cyclopean masonry of my nightmares, and the curvilinear symbols were the very same that had haunted my nocturnal visions. I couldn't sleep that night. I took a walk in the cool desert to clear my mind. Wandering aimlessly, I ruminated about the fantastic implications of the geologist's find. Suddenly, I came upon a hollow in the sand. Something more than scientific zeal drove me to examine it, forcing me to burrow into the earth. I fell into darkness, and something hard struck me when I reached the petrous bottom. I find myself in some kind of cave. I walked through a rocky tunnel and entered a ruin buried in the sand. The surroundings were uncomfortably familiar. I had been here before. My mind simply refused to accept the reality of my deepest fears. I was in the bizarre buildings of my dreams. The very thought made me shudder. Then a thought occurred to me like a searing flash of lightning. I had to find the library. That would give me the ultimate proof. Perhaps I could even find my own manuscript there. This was the library of my dreams and nightmares. Here, the great race had archived the past and the future, all the history of the Earth gathered during their telepathic journeys in time and space. What I saw in that ancient metal case, the thing that chills me to the root of my soul, was unmistakably my own penmanship on these cellulose sheets. It was then that I realized there was something alive in the darkness. Something that had broken free after aeons of imprisonment and was now stalking me. I ran in panic through the craggy dark, trying to recall the path I had taken. In my frantic escape through the abyss, I had dropped the ancient tome that would prove to the world that my nightmares were real. How would I be able to convince anyone that doom is approaching? For I know now, beyond all doubt, that an ancient evil is waiting to arise and prey on an unsuspecting humanity. All too truly, there lies upon this world of man a mocking and terrible shadow out of time.